Okay, I'm going to show you how to use commas when you write addresses into a sentence, okay? Let me get this a little bit closer. All right, so you have to think of addresses in chunks, all right? So the first chunk is the street number with the street name, okay? All of that goes together, and you're never going to divide that up with commas, okay? The second chunk is the city, okay? And then the last chunk is the state plus the zip code. You won't have a comma between the state plus the zip code, okay? So here's how this would look in a sentence. 123 street name. I'll pretend that's the name of the street. Now that gets a comma after it. That is one item, and it gets a comma to separate it from the next item, which is the city, Sullivan, okay? That one is one item, and it gets a comma to separate it from the next item, which is the state plus the zip code. Now notice there's no comma between the state and the zip code because it counts as one item. Now, if you have an address in a sentence like this and you're going to continue your sentence, you're going to put a comma after that and then continue on with your sentence. Okay, 123 street name, Sullivan, Missouri 63080 would be how to include this address in a sentence. Okay, let's see. The reason that you have a comma here is not only that the sentence continues, that's a big reason, okay? But the other reason is because you have more than one item included. So if you already have commas between items, then you're also going to get a comma after the last item in a sentence like this, okay? I'm going to talk about that again a little bit later, but let's look at this one. Candace goes to school at 1100 University Drive, comma, Sullivan, comma, Missouri 63080, comma, because the sentence continues, just 1 mile away from the high school. Okay, so we had several things listed. We had a comma after the street, we had a comma after the city, and because there's more than two of these items that I've got up here, see how there's 3 items there? Anytime you have 2 or more of these in a sentence, you always get a comma after the last one. I'll show you guys more examples, okay? Okay, here's a couple more, and I'm going to explain these to you as we go along, all right? Okay. This one says, Candace lives in Sullivan, Missouri, right next to the post office. Okay, so I have 2 items listed. I have Sullivan and I have Missouri. Now, even though the zip code is not with the state, if it's all by itself, still counts as one item. If it's with the zip code, then the state and the zip code count as an item together. But here we have 2 items, Sullivan and Missouri. So we separate them with a comma, and because the sentence continues, we put a comma after it as well, okay? This one just has one item. Sullivan is Candace's hometown. So there's no comma after Sullivan because it is one item all by itself, okay? Here's another one. 1100 University Drive is the address. So the street address and the street count as one item. The number and the street are one thing, so it does not get a comma after it. It just continues into the sentence. Now, once in a while, you'll see one thing by itself, like this, Paris is the country. And it does get a comma after it, but only because this sentence would get a comma anyway. Whenever we visit Paris, comma, we always go to see the Eiffel Tower. Now, the reason this gets a comma anyway is because we have a dependent clause followed by an independent clause. And anytime you have a dependent clause first, you guys already know this, it gets a comma before the rest of the sentence comes up. So if you were to kind of have a similar sentence, we always visit Paris while we are in France. This one has the independent clause first. We always visit Paris. That could stand alone on its own. It's independent. While we are in France, that's dependent. And because the independent clause comes first, you don't need a comma. And because there's only one thing listed here, one address item listed here, you do not need a comma. So you only get a comma with one item if you would normally get a comma in that sentence anyway, for some other reason, okay? But if you have 2 items, you always separate them with commas, and if the sentence continues after that, you always have a comma after the last item in the list, okay? All right, have fun with this quiz, guys.